What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be doing the part 2 of the Bengals 1968 NFL season. In the previous video, I went over weeks 1 through 7, and now I will be going through weeks 8 through 14, because that's how long the seasons were back then. And yeah, I'll kind of just sum it up, and yeah. So... Okay. The Bengals were now 2-5, and things were looking good. On October 27th, 1968, this would be Week 8 for the Bengals, who were facing the 4-2 Oakland Raiders. They played at the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum with an attendance of 37,083 people. Once again, the Bengals had a really tough time on offense, and they couldn't handle the Raiders' offense as well. Oakland scored a touchdown in the first quarter on a 14-yard pass to Fred Biletnikoff, and would score another touchdown in the second quarter. And they would score another touchdown in the second quarter when Raiders running back Roger Hagberg had a 7-yard rushing touchdown. Paul Robinson would then score an 87-yard rushing touchdown for the Bengals, and the score was 14-7, Raiders winning. Fred Biletnikoff scored a 12-yard passing touchdown again, and Dale Livingston hit a 37-yard field goal. Roger Hadberg scored another 7-yard rushing touchdown, and Raiders kicker George Blanda hit a 48-yard field goal, ending the game 31-10. Raiders won. Although this would be another poor performance by the Bengals, Paul Robinson had 159 rushing yards, 1 touchdown, and a long of 87 yards. This was his best performance of the year so far, and would be crowned the Bengals' leading rusher at the end of the season. Both Dewey Warren and John Staffa had an underwhelming performance, and Dewey only threw for 75 yards and 9 completions, 0 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Surprisingly, the Oakland Raiders actually had more turnovers than Cincinnati, having 3, while the Bengals only had 2. But the Raiders had 26 first downs, while the Bengals only had 8, and the Bengals would have been sacked 7 different times that game. Saint Stafford was the leading receiver of the game for the Bengals, having 66 receiving yards on 5 completions. Week 9 against the Houston Oilers would be the first game of November, held on November 3rd, and was held at Nippert Stadium with an attendance of 24,012 people. The Bengals were already trailing by 10 in the first quarter, after Wayne Walker hit a 27-yard field goal and Alvin Reed caught a 5-yard touchdown pass from Don Troll. In the second quarter, Dale Livingston hit a 28-yard field goal before the Oilers would score another touchdown, which was a 1-yard rushing touchdown from Hoyle Granger. In the third quarter, Paul Robinson scored a 4-yard rushing touchdown, and the Bengals wouldn't score before the Oilers scored another touchdown and a field goal. Mac Hike, 10-yard passing touchdown, and Wayne Walker, 41-yard field goal. The Bengals would end the game with a 68-yard passing touchdown to Paul Robinson from Sam Witch, and would ultimately lose the game 27-17. This would be Sam Witch's... I believe it's actually pronounced... I think it's pronounced Weich. Sam Weich. I actually forget, but I don't think it's pronounced Witch. I actually kind of forget how it's pronounced, so I'll just go with the Witch. But for future videos, if I mention him, I'll have the correct pronunciation. So this is his first start at QB for the Bengals this season, and he had an outstanding performance. He went 20 for 25, 228 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and 0 interceptions. He had a passer rating of 118.0. Paul Robinson had another outstanding game, rushing for 156 yards on 21 attempts, and he had 1 touchdown. Paul Robinson also had 78 receiving yards that game as well. Bob Trumpy led the Bengals in receiving yards that game, catching 6 passes for 80 yards. Houston and Cincinnati each had 21 first downs, and the Bengals actually had more total yards, 374. Although the stats seemed so close, Sam Witch was sacked 5 times that game, which played a big factor into the game. November 10th would be the 10th week of the regular season, and the Bengals were playing the 7-2 Chiefs. This was a very close game, and the Bengals put up a great fight against the Chiefs. It was a home game for Cincinnati, and there was an attendance of 25,537 people. In the first quarter, Chiefs kicker Jan Stenerud hit a 30-yard field goal, giving the Chiefs a 3-0 lead in the first quarter. In the second quarter, Dale Livingston hit a 29-yard field goal, and Jan Stenerud hit an 11-yard field goal, bringing the score 6-3, Chiefs winning at halftime. In the third quarter, Dale Livingston hit two different field goals. One was a 16-yard field goal, and the other was a 23-yard field goal. In the fourth quarter, Jan Stenerud hit another 17-yard field goal, and the Chiefs got the first touchdown of the game, a 27-yard rush from Robert Holmes. The game ended 16-9. The Chiefs won. Sandwich had a really poor passing game, going 12 for 21, 161 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. He was sacked 6 different times, and he had a long of 62 yards. Paul Robinson, like usual, had another great game, rushing for 115 yards on 24 attempts. Bob Trumpy had 99 receiving yards on only 4 catches, making him the catching leader of both teams. The team stats are pretty similar since the game itself was really close, but Cincinnati had 2 turnovers while the Chiefs only had 1 turnover, and Sandwich was sacked 6 times, while Jackie Lee was only sacked 1 time. The Bengals were now 2-8, and Week 11 was against the Miami Dolphins on November 17th. This game was held at the Miami Orange Bowl Stadium, and there was an attendance of 31,747 people. This game was the first great performance by the Bengals in a while, and it wasn't a close game. The Bengals scored a whole 17 points in the second quarter, after putting up 0 points in the first quarter. Stan Mitchell scored a 48-yard touchdown pass from Bob Grease, giving Miami a 7-0 lead in the first quarter. In the second quarter, Bob Trumpy caught an 80-yard touchdown pass from Sam Witch. Dale Livingston hit a 12-yard field goal, and Paul Robinson had a 54-yard rushing touchdown. Heading into the third quarter, the Bengals had the lead 17-7. The Dolphins would go on to score 2 more touchdowns. One was a 7-yard pass touchdown to Carl Noonan, and the other was a 38-yard touchdown to Stan Mitchell. The Dolphins were now leading 21-17, but that would be the last time they scored this game. Starting in the fourth quarter, Warren McVay caught a 55-yard touchdown pass from John Staffa, and Paul Robinson would end the game with 2 more rushing touchdowns, one of which was a 15-yard touchdown, and the other was a 5-yard rushing touchdown. Both Bengals quarterbacks had 1 passing touchdown and 0 interceptions, while Sandwich threw for 105 yards on 3 completions, and John Staffa had 138 passing yards on 6 completions. Yet again, Bob Trumpy led the team in receiving yards with 80, and Paul Robinson had an outstanding game once again, running for 134 yards and 3 touchdowns. Cincinnati was only sacked once, and they had a total of 422 yards. Bob Grease was sacked 6 times for a total loss of 49 yards. Week 12 against the Oakland Raiders on November 24th was the Bengals' worst performance of the season. The Bengals had another home game at Nippert Stadium, and 27,116 people showed up. The Bengals put up 0 points against the Raiders, and the Raiders scored a total of 34 points. Charlie Smith got a 7-yard rushing touchdown in the first quarter, and in the second quarter, Hewitt Dixon had a 5-yard touchdown catch from Daryl LaMonica. The Raiders kicker George Blanda hit 2 field goals, and Charlie Smith scored a 9-yard rushing touchdown. Billy Cannon ended the game with a 12-yard touchdown catch. Cincinnati had 7 first downs the whole game, while Oakland had 33. The Raiders also had 604 total yards, while the Bengals had 148. Daryl LaMonica threw for 368 passing yards, and both Sandwich and Dewey Warren threw for 22 yards. As usual, Paul Robinson had another great game, rushing for 73 yards on 15 attempts. Week 13 against the Boston Patriots on December 1st would be another rough game for Cincinnati. This game was held at Fenway Park, better known as a baseball park now, but at the time it was a multi-purpose field, with a season-low attendance of 17,796 people. I believe Fenway Park has, I think it has 26,000 seats now, so it's still a pretty small stadium for baseball. The Patriots would score 5 straight times before Cincinnati put up points on the board. The only score that happened in the first quarter was Patriots safety, when Paul Robinson was tackled in their end zone. In the second quarter, Gino Cappelletti hit a 27-yard field goal. Jim Wallen scored an 11-yard catching touchdown. Gino Cappelletti scored an 18-yard catching touchdown, and Jim Nance had a 5-yard rushing touchdown. All of these points were scored by Boston. In the third quarter, Estes Banks scored a 5-yard touchdown for the Bengals. And in the fourth quarter, Jim Whalen scored another catching touchdown, 21 yards. And Bengals' Rod Sherman scored a 27-yard touchdown, ending the game 33-14. The Patriots won. Cincinnati didn't play terrible, having 212 yards, while the Patriots only had 59 more. Cincinnati had 2 fumbles and was sacked twice. John Staffa had 103 passing yards on 15 completions, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. On defense, Jess Phillips had an interception for the Bengals. The last game would be against the New York Jets with a season-high attendance of 61,111 people. That is crazy that a sports stadium had that many seats in 1968, because the smallest stadium in the league right now, the Bears Stadium, Soldier Field, I think it has maybe even less than this. I actually want to search that up. I am going to search up how many seats does Soldier Field have. Soldier Field has 61,500 seats, and it can expand up to 63,500 for soccer matches and special events. So, yeah. This is the smallest stadium in the league. And so it is barely bigger, like literally by 40 seats. That is crazy. Yeah. Yeah, so it's bigger by 40 seats, which is crazy because this is like a 58-year age gap. That's crazy. Anyways, where was I? Okay. This was held at Shea Field. At the time, the Jets were the best team in the league, with quarterback Joe Namath. The game started with 2 touchdown passes from Joe Namath. In the first quarter, one was a 10-yard touchdown to George Sawyer, and the other was a 12-yard touchdown to Don Maynard. In the second quarter, Paul Brown scored a 14-yard rushing touchdown for the Bengals, before Jets kicker Jim Turner would make 2 consecutive field goals, a 35-yard and a 22-yard field goal. In the fourth quarter, Jim Griffin scored a touchdown after he had a defensive fumble recovery in the end zone. The Jets would end the game with a 34-yard passing touchdown to Bake Turner, ending the game 27-14. Jets won. The Bengals only had 6 first downs and a total of 158 yards. The Jets had 19 first downs and 286 total yards. Dewey Warren threw 3 for 7, 58 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Bob Trumpy had 42 receiving yards, and Paul Robinson had 33 rushing yards. The Bengals ended the season 3-11, with the most notable players being John Staffa, who threw for 896 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Paul Brown was easily the star player for the Bengals, rushing for 1,023 yards, 8 touchdowns, and a long of 87 yards in his first season. So, not only was he the first Bengals player to rush for 1,000 yards, but this was all in his first season, and it was the Bengals' first ever season. So, an amazing performance by Paul Brown. Bob Trumpy led the Bengals in receiving yards, receiving touchdowns, and receptions, recording 47 receptions for 639 yards and 3 touchdowns. He would go into the Pro Bowl along with Paul Brown and Bob Johnson. Paul Brown's coaching staff consisted of 6 total members, one of them being future Hall of Fame coach Bill Walsh. Dale Livingston led the team in scoring, John Staffa in passing, Paul Robinson in rushing, Bob Trumpy for receptions, receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns, Dale Livingston for punting, Essex Johnson and Warren McVay for punt returns, Essex Johnson for kickoff returns, Dale Livingston for field goals, and Jess Phillips for interceptions. The Bengals had an underwhelming first season, but it was a very important time. It was a very important part of Bengals history, and it was an exciting time for the Queen City. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Definitely not too long of a video, but I definitely wanted to split this up into 2 sections because, the video would be really long if it was just one video, and I wanted you guys to, I wanted to break it down for you guys so that it wouldn't be too much information to handle in just one video. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon. And hope you have a great Thursday. And yeah, hoo day.